Volunteering in the Valley promotes volunteering and volunteers in our area. Tell us about your organization's volunteer needs and we will share them with others looking to make a difference. Tell us about your personal volunteer experiences and inspire others. We'd love to hear from you. Email volunteeringinthevalley@cvalley.net or call Jean at 660-385-5233. This is a joint venture between CVTV and AARP.
Volunteering in the Valley is back, and guess what? It's pretty nice outside today, and we're coming up into the month of March, so let's look around at what we can do about gardening. How many of you have thought of gardening as a volunteer activity? I wouldn't have thought too much about it, except I met a lady by the name of Mary Wilson, who is an advanced master gardener. Her home is in Illinois, but she's over here in Missouri at the present time. And she's going to talk to us today about some aspects of gardening and volunteering with your gardening skills, and some classes that are going to be available, how you can become a master gardener. So, Mary, let's start off and talk first about the workshop that you're going to be presenting.
I'm going to be presenting a talk on it's called adaptive gardening. It's for people who have special needs in their gardening. Maybe they have arthritis, they have bad backs, bad knees. So what are some different options of how you can garden, either in containers, using straw bales, using raised troughs, or containers that you set up on a table. We're going to talk about that. And also some tools that make gardening easier, such as extending garden tools. Also more ergonomic tools that maybe take the weight off of your wrist and you use your arm to do your gardening. And also I'm going to talk about, it's called blue ribbon gardening. This is especially useful for people who like to show produce or flowers or jams or jellies or things at a garden at the local fair, which I understand is in July. I'll be talking about some varieties of vegetables especially that are good to plant now or ones you need to time so that your produce is at peak when it comes fair time. And also, too, I'll be talking and introducing a new Master Garden class that the University of Missouri Extension will be conducting starting August 23rd through November the 8th. It's a series of classes once a week from 1 to 4 p.m. Once you complete your Master Garden program, the only requirement is to do 30 hours of volunteer work that first year. Now you can volunteer, such as Jean, she calls me, she says, I don't know for sure how I want to do landscaping in my yard, but I'm thinking I kind of want maybe a little color, maybe something of interest in the winter. You can then go to her house, you can look around, see which is a good location, what might be a good variety for her. If you do any of the planting, you can count that also as your volunteer hours. Once you have those 30 hours completed, you can, as course, University of Missouri appreciates any hours beyond 30 hours that you do, such as working in a community garden or setting up help with the food pantry and when you're producing food to give to a pantry, things of that sort. So.
Okay, I can think of lots of places because I think most of our nursing homes around the area have a little garden area for the residents. I know that the Community Child Development Center usually in the summer, puts together a little garden with the children. In the case of my yard, I think I might be more interested in rabbit and deer resistant varieties and ways I can avoid stoop labor.
Right.
Because we reach a certain age, you know, that stoop labor isn't as easy as it used to be. But I still love to have a few fresh tomatoes and a little bit of lettuce and maybe some radishes to make a nice salad. But you don't have to stop doing that just because you reach a certain age or physical condition. There's ways to get around it. We also want to be sure that you're all aware of the workshop that she's going to be putting on. That will be Monday, March the 27th at 6 p.m. at the Macon County Extension Office. That is not limited to residents of Macon County, neither is the Master Gardening class. She will be the main presenter, and there will be a contact name and number on your screen if you have more questions. But you know, other than that, all you have to do is show up. Free to the public, and you know, come with some ideas in mind of what aspects you're really interested in. And maybe I can just go down the street and help my neighbor who used to plant tomatoes but can't manage to do that anymore. Or just share my produce with somebody in my neighborhood. Because almost all of us who raise vegetables raise too much.
Zucchinis.
Oh, I can always get rid of zucchini. But tell me a little bit more about how you got to be a master gardener. Where did your interest begin?
Well, in 2002, I moved to Missouri, south of Potosi in Washington County from Illinois. Was born and raised in Illinois, lived the majority of my adult life in central Illinois where there was black soil that you could reach down to your elbow and never hit a rock. Moved to south of Potosi on 10 acres. There was an existing garden there, but the former owner had never amended the soil. So rock was my first ingredient, and then very sticky clay. And so I had tried to plant the varieties of vegetables that I was used to planting, and they kind of just laughed at me that first year. And so I read about the Master Garden program in the newspaper, and at Monroe Area College, they had the classes, and I was like, yes, please tell me what grows in Missouri besides rocks. And
Carrots, not so much.
not so much. And so over the years, I try to garden as organically as possible. And so I started amending the soil. And I actually took soil samples every year. And I noticed it took about 7 years before my soil's texture started changing. It was about 12 years before I would say it was that nice, loamy, soft soil that you could just use a hoe. And once a year, I would have my husband till in last year's cover crop. And then I'd let that set for a couple weeks to break down a little before you plant. You don't want to plant right away after you till. But I never wanted to over-till because I didn't want to ruin my structure of my soil. And I created a huge compost pit. I would have one that was almost finished, and then I would have one that I had gathered our leaves and grass from the year before and turning. So I always had a few compost pits going at the same time. And then, so I always took a soil test, which I think in living in Missouri I find is very important because it gave me a lot of information about whether I needed to add nutrients to the soil, what did I need, how much, what was my pH, things that affect the ability for a plant to absorb nutrients.
You see what I mean? This is a lady not just with a love of the subject, but with a lot of knowledge of the subject. and she would love to have you come and share. In the meantime, begin thinking about your gardening activities this year. What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? Who do you want to do it with? If you've got young children or young grandchildren, what a wonderful experience to share with them and let them see the excitement of that little green sprout coming up through the ground and those little leaves, open those first 2 leaves right out of the seed.
What I like about, especially with children, if you plant radishes, they germinate within just a few days. And then you see this little sprout of green, and the kids get so excited, even if they don't want to eat the radish, when it's fully developed. But believe it or not, there has been studies done that children that garden will more likely eat vegetables that they normally wouldn't even think about because they had a hand in
Right.
actually producing that vegetable.
Right.
And parents tend to like to hide vegetables sometimes in ways. You can blend carrots up maybe in macaroni and cheese.
Never. I think vegetables are a gift all by themselves, and if they're correctly prepared, they're great. So I'm going to volunteer to teach you all to eat vegetables. Mary, anything else that we need to cover that will help the folks who are interested in the workshop or in the master gardening classes that you can think of today?
Just contact Shirley Chambers. She is the president of the Macon County Master Gardeners here in town. She's the one who's asked me to do this presentation.
Good.
This will be my 3rd year. At the Extension office, if you contact Jennifer Shooter at 660-665-9866, she can give you more information about the Master Garden program in Missouri.
And that's great. So all of you out there, we've given you something different to think about, very seasonal, gives you a great excuse to get out in the fresh air. And it's exercise, a lot more interesting than going out and walking the dam as far as I'm concerned. So we'll just remind you that Volunteering in the Valley is a cooperative effort between Sheraton Valley, CVTV, and your local chapter, which is the Long Branch area chapter of AARP. We want to thank you all for watching, and we want to invite all of you to come and join us with the Master Gardening class and or the spring workshop. And in the meantime, you think about what activities your group wants to sponsor and what volunteer opportunities you're aware of that we can put your guest right here. We can do the interview and make everybody in the area aware of what's going on. So thanks again, and happy volunteering.
Volunteering in the Valley promotes volunteering and volunteers in our area. Tell us about your organization's volunteer needs, and we will share them with others looking to make a difference. Tell us about your personal volunteer experiences and inspire others. We'd love to hear from you. Email volunteeringinthevalley@cvalley.net or call Jean at 660-385-5233. This is a joint venture between CVTV and AARP.